trying to put him in situations where he can flourish?
Oh, I think, it's a great point, because I think he's a player that, he's got a certain set of offensive skills that not everybody on the team does. He's a, he can make plays. He can, if he can get the puck, and if they can find a way, or he can find a way to create time for himself to make plays, like any good player, he's going to find that open man. He's going to make the play. But the difficulty in this series is he hasn't been able to find that time. You mentioned the rough and tumble. Vancouver, every chance they get, if you're playing against a skilled player like Novak, you're trying to finish that play and finish that player every chance you get. And you could see it's kind of taken a toll, and it's been effective, I think, in really limiting what, he's been able to do. And Andrew Burnett does want to try to get him in a situation, start him on offensive zone faceoffs. He'll have a better opportunity at home here when to disperse, a player like Novak and maybe put him in those advantageous situations, as you mentioned. He'll have a little bit of an easier job doing that here at home, but, he's hoping that if he does that, he's going to need a play. Somebody's got to make a play. He's one of the players that, has that skill set and the ability to create something, even when, Vancouver's in the right spots and, they're doing all the right things. You need players to be able to make plays. And he's one of those guys that, you kind of just, you keep waiting for him to be able to, contribute on a, an offensive situation, which is, that's his bread and butter. That's the situations that he's going to be put out there, and that's what's expected of him. So hopefully if they keep at that and he does continue to get better, he'll be able to make a play and help them move on.
Chris Mason with us talking about Game 6, which is coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. Doors open at 3 o'clock. Very busy night downtown. So, again, we'll re-emphasize what we've been talking about. If you're coming down to the game, make sure you give yourself extra time. Get here early. The doors will be open. And get ready for what's going to be, I think, a really, really good hockey game. So, Mace, one thing you've pointed out several times during the series is it's clear what Vancouver is trying to do 5-on-5 and definitely when they're on the power play. And that's a lot of cross-ice action, being selective when they shoot, and looking for if there are not great shooting lanes, they're trying to play the puck in front of the net, looking for sticks, that second stick, as Rick Tocchet calls it, trying to bumper it towards the net. And it feels like Nashville has gotten a little bit better feel for it as the series has gone along. But talk about that dynamic, because that's the cat and mouse game that as you go further, you wonder if Rick Tocchet's going to yo-yo back and say, guys, just blast it on net. Let's get traffic and go back in that direction. That's what I'm looking forward to tonight.
Well, yeah, me too. And I think it's one of those things that's a balance, because, you saw those two late goals in Game 4. That's exactly what they did. It was cross-ice stuff. It was pucks to the, not on net, but to the middle traffic that ended up deflecting through, and Besser ended up getting his own kind of rebound there on the game-tying one. But the other one was a backdoor empty net type of a goal. They've tried that, and it's worked. They've had a bunch of near misses, but that's what happens. You're going to miss a lot of those attempts as well. But I feel in Game 5 that the Predators really adapted and adjusted well to that. They probably went to the well a little too much, because every time they come to the ice, they're flinging it across, and I thought the Predators were ready. I thought Saros did a good job of anticipating that, although he did get caught on the only goal that he let in. Zadorov, and was kind of leaning to the middle, expecting a pass, and Zadorov made a great shot. You got to credit him. Nobody thinks a defenseman's going to come down and try to pick that spot, but he did a good job of looking to the middle. Now, I think Vancouver, what they're going to do is it's like anything. Is if you have a guy that's a pass-first guy and he passes all the time, well, you know how to defend him. You just lean, you give him the space, and you lean to the passing options. Until he shoots, you don't respect the shot, because he's gonna pass that puck. So if Vancouver's passing every time, the Predators adapted. They lean more to finding the pass options and that type of thing. Now, Vancouver, I think, after hearing Rick Tocchet talk after the game, he says they've got to have more shot first. If the shot's there, you kind of take what's given to you. Don't force those pucks into the coverage if it's not there. So I expect them to start shooting a little more. And then if they're able to do that, then naturally the Predators are going to have to respect the shot, and maybe those options will open up for them. But we'll have to see, how Vancouver comes out at the start of the game and what their approach is in that regard. But yeah, it's definitely one of the biggest things I'll be looking for.
One thing that sometimes, I think we lose sight of, at least where I sit, right, is how much goes into shot blocking. And I know Hal Gill has talked over and over. We've learned a lot about shot blocking from Hal Gill. But you as a goalie, you appreciate good shot blocking in front of you. Rick Tocchet said this. He goes, if they are going to block a shot, it's got to hurt. And you heard Andrew Brunette saying in Game 2 when they blocked over 30 shots, he goes, we embraced the pain that comes with blocking shots. You have to – it's a human nature to say, ooh, I don't want to get in front of that thing. It's going to hurt. But that's what it takes sometimes to win, right?
Well, that's the difference in winning and losing sometimes. And I think, that's the one thing about this series that's impressed me the most is there's a lot of talk about low event and, the amount of shots or maybe the lack of shots in the series. A lot of that has to do with two teams that are able to defend well, but a lot of it, part of defense is blocking shots and having the willingness, both forwards and defensemen, to get in front and take that pain and being willing, to sacrifice. And it's one thing to want to block shots. It's like any other skill. You've got two teams that are highly skilled and willing to put their bodies on the line in their shot blocking. And I think that's really shown. So with the lack of shots on goal, a historic low, I think, out of Vancouver's side, what was it, 92 out of 5 games, but it's not, there's not a lot of lanes there on both sides. You get that puck, there's been a lot of zone time. Both teams have had, pretty even amounts of zone time, but there's just not lanes there because every single player on both teams is willing to put their body in front. It's just the effort and the extra, willingness to put your head in front of a puck. Guys are diving head first. Like it's crazy. These guys are nuts. And it's made for an extremely physical, defensive type of a series that's just been, quite frankly, really fun and impressive to watch.
It is amazing to watch, for sure. So, Mace, one thing that we heard Andrew Brunette said in the pregame before Game 5, and I think he reiterated something. He finds these different phrases that I think are all really interesting to hear, but it's all saying the same thing. He said, anybody can grab a moment. And that's a great way to say what you see sometimes in the playoffs, right? It would be great if the guys who are the bigger scorers scored tonight, but you would take a big play from anybody tonight. And one big play, as you said, could tip the scales for you. But that's the beauty of hockey. And it was Andrew Brunette himself way back in the day, right? He was not a well-known guy. In 2003, he ended up scoring the last goal that Patrick Waugh ever gave up, right? And they pulled a huge upset, Minnesota over Colorado. I just wonder, how that plays in tonight. Who's going to be the guy?
Well, that's what they need. That I think it's such a evenly played series. I think Game 1, it was the Lindholm line of a couple guys that are just blue collar guys that have been actually contributing offensively, but it's not their main guys. A couple of the other wins they had Besser and Miller, were the front and center. But I think the Predators, when they've had success and when they went on that big point run, it could have been anybody. Evangelista had some moments. The McCarron line with Sherwood and Cole Smith, who are not relied upon for their offensive prowess, were scoring goals and they're contributing in big ways in that during that run and ever since then. So they've shown this team has shown that it can be anybody, and anybody has, stepped up and kind of been, front and center in those moments. So I think that's good. And I think a lot of what you're hearing from Andrew Brunette, the players, is, hey, they've been in this situation before throughout the season. They're relying on that. This is a team that believes. There's a certain calm. I think, even after they went down 3-1, I just felt there's just no panic in Andrew Brunette, no panic in the players' mentality. They're just going to go out and win a game. And it's, they're comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's what Andrew Brunette says. You got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think this team is. And I think, it's the story tonight's going to be, who's it going to be? If it's nobody, they're done. So somebody's got to step up and make it happen. That's the reality of it, right? That's the reality.
Yep.
Yep.
100%. Chris Mason is with us. C-Mace, I know a lot of Preds fans are going into this game with a lot of trepidation, a lot of anxiety, because The Predators dropped both games at Bridgestone Arena. They come back home, and I guess the series has shown us home ice doesn't really mean much since the road team has won the last 4 games of the series. What do you take away from that? Do you put any stock into that?
I don't put any stock into what's already happened because it's already happened and there ain't nothing you can do about it. So, who would have thought that the Canucks or the Preds were going to go in and win, those last 2 games in Vancouver? It just doesn't matter. The only thing that matters, you could make an argument the Predators should have won game 4. They didn't. They blew it at the end. They played better in game 3 there as well. But they didn't win. And it just comes down to one game. That's my key tonight is just get one. That's all you can do. The only thing that matters is this game at home. If they can win one game at home at Bridgestone Arena, you can force a game 7. So those other games don't matter. This is the only game that matters. If they win 1 out of 3, if you're looking back and say, well, you only won 1 out of 3, against the Canucks, well, you still gave yourself a chance to win the series. So that's where my head would be at as a player. I wouldn't even be thinking about those other games, to be honest with you.
Not just get one game, but maybe just one goal could do it. In a
That could do
series
it.
that has been so tightly contested, maybe just one goal could do the trick. C-Mace, appreciate you for stopping by. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Okay, thank you guys. Take care.
I appreciate it. C-Mace, Chris Mason stopping by here on the program. We will continue to get back into Predators thoughts. We'll get back into your Predators phones and texts. But coming up next, Ask D-Mase. So get those questions in for D-Mase. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have a question for D-Mase, we'll take your calls, we'll take your texts, and everything is on the table. Ask D-Mase coming up next. Caroline Willy D-Mase is brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
D-Mase.
He played 15 years in the NFL.
Quick throw. Touchdown, Derek Mason.
He had over 12,000 receiving yards.
Midfield, and there he goes. 80 yards for the touchdown.
And now you can ask him anything. Have a question about football or life? Now's your time to ask D-Mase.
We'll welcome you in.
Now on Caroline, Willy, and
D-Mase.
on 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
All right, get those questions in for D-Mase. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll take your calls. We will take your texts. We will take all of your questions for D-Mase. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And one texter texts in with a question for D-Mase.
Let's do it.
Says, why doesn't the screen pass work in the NFL like it does in every other division or level? Is it a lack of good blocking, or does it just click with these defenders and all of a sudden they can stop it?
Well, I mean, in college, high school is a lot different because it's based upon competition. You're going to play in college, you're going to play a lot of teams, or half of your schedule is going to be teams, especially if you're a good team. It's going to be against teams that you are superior over, that doesn't have as much talent across the board than you. So some plays may come a little bit easier in a sense of how you block them and able to get out to those linebackers. In the NFL, I think, speed is a big component of why, screen plays are not routinely used or as successful. Now, you're going to get some teams. That's just the way it is. But you have to be strategically correct in how you run your screen plays because it's all a setup. You can't just come out and just start running screen plays all willy-nilly. You got to set screen plays up. And in the NFL, even though you've set them up, the chances that I recover on defense is greater than the chances for a college kid or a high school kid to, be going one way and then realize, oh my goodness, it's a screen, and try to scrape back over and get it. They may not be, foot speed, or from a, mental standpoint, they may not be able to read it as good. But in the NFL, I mean, you're going against the best of the best, and this is all these guys do is study and watch film. So when you set up your screenplay, you better have had run several different plays in that sort of that same formation to set up your screenplays. So I think that's why screenplays in the NFL, where they do work, but they may not work as well as you may see them work in the college ranks or in high school. It's just guys are more aware. This is their job, so you are expected to know, to recognize offenses and offensive sets when you go on the field.
And even if it does, quote unquote work, whether that means picking up a couple of yards, whether that means a completion, whether that means picking up a first down, it's not really sexy to talk about. Like, it's not going to be making any Sports Center top 10s whenever there's, 40, 50-yard deep passes that you're seeing in any given Miami game. So it's not going to be really, talked about. But another texter texts in and says, Derek, I asked someone else this yesterday. I want your take on it. I know that they're months away from taking the field, but why is it that year after year after year, knowing how critical an offensive line is to the success of any offense, are the Titans continually in the position of not being able to find competent O-linemen? That's the multi-million-dollar question right there.
Yeah, it is. And, let me go back quickly, just say a quick thing about the screens. They do run screens, but they're ran a little bit different now because you have a lot of wide receiver screens. But the traditional screen to a running back, they don't use it as much. They would rather throw it out to the receiver because they feel the receivers can get the yards, and plus he's out in space. But back to the offensive lineman. I don't know, and this is the question that we've been trying to answer for the last couple of years. I could say some of it is due to injury. Some of it is due to the team not wanting to re-sign, guys, Jack Conklin, some other guys within there. They just hadn't been able to develop the offensive lineman. And I think a part of it too is the college game is a lot different. And then when you come to the pros, you don't have as much time to spend with these offensive linemen. And I do firmly believe that, and there hasn't been any, you know, case study on this or anything, but I do believe that because they've taken days away from you being able to meet as a team, it has hurt the offensive line position more than any other position on the football field.
And to give the Titans at least a shred, an iota of credit,
Yeah.
they've tried.
Yeah, they've tried.
Like Isaiah Wilson, a big old swing and a miss.
Mm-hmm.
They draft Dylan Radins in the second round of the 2021 draft, and he's not a starter in this league. They've tried to
Yeah.
find solutions to those positions. It just hasn't worked, which might be worse than just completely ignoring it altogether.
Yeah, not trying. So and then
Yeah.
but then you can go to, well, have they had the coaching they needed to develop as blockers? Well, that's, you know, you can sit here and debate that, but we all know, you know, the last couple of years, it doesn't seem like they had the coaching, but we believe they have it now in Bill Callahan.
I was wondering when he was going to call in. Eric is on the line with a question for D-Mase. What's up, Eric?
Yeah, and I've also got a dad joke, and I'm going to give you a heads up in advance. This one might be a groaner, so get ready. Okay.
Those are the best dad
So-
jokes.
Yeah. So, guys, you know, the dogs are very intelligent creatures, and they can do a lot of things, you know, but there's one thing dogs can't do. You know, they're not good at reading an MRI. Only cats scan.
I like that one, Cat.
That's a good one, Eric.
Man.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I thought this one might be a groaner. So, but guys, my question for the Titans is, you know, and you were talking about, and I know a lot of people's been talking about the wide receiver position. And of course, Tyler Boyd was here and he left and didn't sign a contract. I heard reports they're offering him like $9 million. I don't know what's going to happen, but do you think they might sign him or another wide receiver? And what does that mean for Traylon Burks? Because I'm hearing, of course, this regime did not originally draft him. Some people think this may be his last year. They don't know if he'll have a shot or whatever. There's just not a lot of tape on him. But how do you think all this is shaking out for him? Because I know you got thoughts on that. Guys, y'all take care. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Eric.
it.
Have a
For
good
one,
one.
Eric, don't listen. The stuff that came out yesterday, just put all that stuff to the side. People were tweeting, oh, you know, Tyler Boyd signed, he's gonna sign, and here's the parameters of the deal. All that was hogwash. Wasn't none of it real. So no one knows what's going on. Only thing we know is that he visited the Tennessee Titans yesterday. We assume he's not here anymore. We assume that he's not a part of the team because there hasn't been any press release saying that he's been signed. There hasn't been, you know, insiders saying he's been signed. So I don't know if he's going to sign or not. You know, we won't know until, you know, his name is on a dotted line, whether he's going to sign or not. So all of that you saw yesterday, forget all that stuff, Eric. It means nothing. I don't know if they're going to sign him. I really don't. I've said, you know, the past couple of days that I wouldn't be opposed to signing him, but there's no rush to sign him, you know, because you want to see what you have in that room moving forward. And if you find out that the guys, or we need to add another guy, then you can add that other guy. I don't think Tyler Boyd, at least I don't expect him to sign, you know, within the next week or two. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But you have time to sit back and sort of let this thing play out, at least in my eyes, because it's not like you are a Tyler Boyd away from, you know, being the best team or one of the best teams in the AFC and in the NFL alone.
Yeah, you know, Tyler Boyd's not a go-for-it move.
Exactly.
We have a ton of text in the text line. Questions for you, D-Mase. And really kind of just a summary of what the questions are is, how much better, and would Tyler Boyd make the Titans better?
Of course he will make their passing game on paper better. Why? Because he's a veteran guy that has played really good football. He's been a part of a winning team there in Cincinnati. Obviously, we know the Cincinnati Bengals went to the Super Bowl, and he was a part of that Super Bowl win. That Super Bowl representing team for the AFC. Ultimately, they didn't win, came close. So adding Tyler Boyd to the mix would be a plus. It's not going to be a minus because he's a guy that, again, he's logged in a lot of minutes. He's played some really good football. He's had 2 back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. I'm not saying he would have another 1,000 yards, but his contribution, I think, would be felt on this team or any other team. So I think it would be a good addition, but it's not going to make or break the Titans if they don't sign him.
Andrew Texan says, D-Mase, are NFL players truly intimidated by any other players in the league? Like, would Ed Reed make you really think about running a certain route?
No, I mean, when you, okay, let me say this because I'm only speaking for myself. There was nobody that ever intimidated me in the game of football, ever. Now, there are some guys that, you tell them to go across the middle, and they develop alligator arms for some reason, or they shrink it, or they don't want to go in that middle. I get that. So I don't know if that's intimidation or just, I don't know, just being afraid to go across the middle no matter who's there. But I can't see a guy being intimidated. At least I didn't know of a guy that was intimidated by another guy. Now, you respect the guy's ability to play the game or play his position. You respect that, and you prepare accordingly. But I don't think there's a guy that another guy has been intimidated by, at least guys that I play with. I don't know, guys that I didn't play with, I don't know. But guys that I play with, they were not intimidated by an opposing player or team.
If you think there are probably some young guys out there, maybe, I'm sure Dylan Wrighton might be a little intimidated by an Aaron Donald, so to speak. And I'm just using that as an example. A young guy versus an established veteran.
Yeah, I don't think it's intimidation. It's just, I think the first thought in your mind is like, wow, like I watched this guy play. Like, I've been watching him play for like the last 8 years, and I've idolized him. That's what comes in your head first. Like, oh my goodness, I'm playing against a guy that I idolize. That comes in your head first, and then it's how do I, going against Aaron Donald, how do I protect my quarterback? How do I make sure I'm doing the right things from a technique standpoint? And then once that happens, it's just once you get off the ball, all that stuff goes out the window. I'm not afraid. All that stuff goes out the window. Why? Because you're concentrating on what's your priority, your technique, your assignment. That's what you're concentrating on. You're not concentrating on, that's Aaron Donald. Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, before the snap, but after the snap, you just got to block. He becomes just a name and a face. That's all. It's business.
Yeah. Wes in Clarksville texts in with a very important question, D-Mase.
Let's go.
Says, who would you take to a Morgan Wallen concert, Jared Stillman or Paul Kuharsky?
Who would I take to a Morgan Wallen? For one, I wouldn't go to a Morgan Wallen concert. I just wouldn't. But if I had to go, wow. Can I say I would take neither one of those jokers?
If you wanted to sort of make life miserable for whoever the artist was, those guys I think could be really good hecklers.
Yeah, they would be. You know what? I think I would take Stilly. I'd take Stilly. I think I would have, not to say I wouldn't have a good time with Paul, but I think that's more so of Stillman's age group. So I take Stillman, and he may know some people there, some younger people get together, and we all start cheering and doing whatever you do in concerts. I don't know, but I take Stillman.
You think Paul might complain a little bit too much?
I think Paul may complain. He may complain. People are too close. People are too loud. Why are you on my back? Why are you drinking a beer? All that stuff. I think
these people are too close.
Exactly.
This lights are too bright.
Paul would complain the whole time. And I don't have time for that, so I would take Stilly.
Nobody's got time for that. All right,
I love you, Paul.
Back into your questions for D-Mase coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have got a question for D-Mase, we'll take your calls, and, of course, we will take your texts as well. Join 1025 The Game for Kubota Orange Days at the grand opening of Coleman Tractor of Nashville's newest location tomorrow. Stop by anytime from 9 to 2 p.m. for demos, deals, and giveaways. Lunch is from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And 1025 The Game will be there on site from 10 a.m. to noon. So stop by and see us at Coleman Tractor of Nashville's newest location, 7221 Whites Creek Pike in Jolton. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan today as the Nashville Sounds take on the Norfolk Tide at First Horizon Park. Pregame at 6:20 p.m., first pitch at 6:35, with coverage also available on 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks Family Leisure and Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. We'll catch up with Adam Vingan at the top of the hour in just over 10 minutes. He has a recent article put out on sportsnet.ca, kind of breaking down the offensive struggles that you've seen both Vancouver and Nashville have throughout the first 5 games of the series. So Adam Vingan will join us in just about 10 minutes, but we are right back into your questions for D-Mase. One texter texts in and asks the question, what do you think is worse, D-Mase? Missing on offensive linemen or missing on quarterbacks every time, like the Cleveland Browns?
What is worse, missing on offensive linemen or missing on quarterbacks? That's easy, missing on your quarterback because it sets you back. Missing on the offensive lineman, I mean, it's not a good thing to miss on offensive lineman, but I think you have more chances to hit it with the offensive lineman because you can draft an offensive lineman in consecutive rounds, or if it doesn't work out, you can come back and draft an offensive lineman the next following year. And sort of, if a guy doesn't work out at tackle, you can probably shift him down and put him at guard or something like that. So, whereas you may have missed on him at the tackle position or some other position, maybe he can play a different position within that line. Quarterback is a quarterback. He ain't playing no different position. And if you miss on him, you got to start the clock all over again, and which puts you further and further behind everybody else that has quarterback. So the obvious answer is missing on your quarterback. That would be more detrimental to a team. And then let's go back to that Stilly and Paul question. Another reason why I wouldn't take Paul, because it would be kind of weird seeing two 50-year-old guys sitting there
at a
Morgan College.
A little bit of younger
Exactly.
crowd.
I would rather take Stilly, and they can say, oh, that's his uncle or something, like he's taking his nephew to the game, I'm like, yeah, Stilly's my nephew.
Have you been marinating on this over the break?
Yes, I had been.
It's
yes,
a very difficult question.
Exactly.
It needed a little bit of thought.
Yeah, I needed to think about it a little bit more. So
that's on me, maybe, for just dropping that on you. I should have given you a little bit of a warm-up period to maybe do a Venn diagram, the pros and cons of each.
Exactly.
That's truly the most important question of the day. Tom's on the line with a question for D-Mase. Thanks for calling in, Tom.
Hi, D-Mase.
Hey, what's going on, Tom?
When you were in the NFL, did you collect any sports memorabilia from other players? If so, what?
Did I collect sports memorabilia from any other players while I was playing? Yes, I got jerseys, obviously, from the guys that I played with, great players, Eddie, Bruce, Steve, Javon, guys like that, Samari, that I played with, Ray, Ed, those guys. But as far as memorabilia, not necessarily from guys that I played with or guys within the NFL, I think, I know. I got my son a pair of Muhammad Ali signed gloves, and I got those as a welcome to this world gift.
So cool.
For my son Derek when he was born. It just so happened that night I had a charity event, and I love Muhammad Ali. So those gloves were right there, and I bid on them, and I won, and I gave them to my son. So those are
cool.
those are like the most prized memorabilia pieces that I have. Those gloves that I got for my son, and then a Kobe Bryant signed jersey that I got as a present some years ago. I cherish that too. Obviously, Kobe's not here no more, but he was my favorite player. So
something
other
to
than
cherish,
Magic
period,
Johnson, other than Magic Johnson,
something to cherish no matter what, but especially means
Exactly.
a little bit more. Getting back into some of your questions for D-Mase, Bob texts in, says, interesting question. Says, would it work for both sides of some player contracts in the NFL, particularly quarterbacks, if they were tied to a percentage of the salary cap rather than set dollar amounts?
if it was tied to a percentage of the salary cap, like you had to pay them a percentage of it, and is that what he's saying? Like it
I don't know if
wasn't
it would
necessarily
be-
like a 5-year, $150 million contract. It would just be like 3% of what the salary cap number is. Is that what he's saying?
That's what I think that he's saying. Like
Okay.
3% over the next 5 years.
Yeah, I'm not sure that um, owners would go for that. Even though, if it's sort of that way anyway, because if you look at their contracts, if you go to Spot Rack, it does break down what percentage of their contract is sort of takes up the salary cap. Some guys it takes up 10% of the salary cap. Some guys take up 2% of the salary cap. So it is there, but the contracts are not based upon percentages. We're not signing a 5-year contract worth 3% of what the salary cap is. I'm not sure guys. I'm not sure guys or owners would go for that because that becomes a little tricky. Trying to do contracts for higher end guys as well as lower end guys.
And let's keep in mind, too, whenever the CBA changes or the salary cap adjusts as well.
Yeah, and we
So
do.
if you,
No, go
Yeah,
ahead,
go ahead.
Caroline. Go ahead. No, I was going to say.
it would just,
I was going to say if I said we do get a percentage of the salary cap, like the money that is coming in. It's not necessarily a salary cap, but the money that is coming into the NFL. We do as players get a percentage of that.
Yeah.
I think it's like 51%.
That's how
Yeah.
in general
Exactly.
they determine what the salary cap
Absolutely.
is. That they take the league revenues. This is how most leagues do it. They take the pie, right, and say here's all the money coming in to make up the pie. And the players get 51%,
And the owners get
the owners
49.
get 49.
Yeah.
And that's how they say, all right, there's how it works out per team. Here's your
Exactly.
salary cap ceiling.
I think if I was a player, I would like it. If I was an owner, I wouldn't.
Yeah, owners.
The owners.
Yeah.
The best part about the salary cap for an owner is it protects you from yourself.
Exactly.
It guarantees that you're going to break even or make money, basically. If you just stick to that, say here's your money that you're going to pay to players, it's based on the league revenues, then you basically can't go wrong. And there's other sources of revenue for the owners that make it even easier for them to make money hand over fist.
Yeah, because it allows the business model to proceed more fluently. Because if there isn't a percentage of a salary cap, you're not going to have a league for a long time. That's why, in the 80s, why they went on strike, because the players were not getting a percentage of the salary cap. So
Yeah,
they
of the
wanted
league revenues,
exactly
yeah.
the league revenue. They wanted
They couldn't
a
go to
percentage.
free agency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was beneficial to the owners, but it wasn't beneficial to the players. And if it's not beneficial to the players, you're not going to have a league. So that's why every 10 years, I think that's what it is, they redo the collective bargaining deal because the money gets bigger, which means the players, want more money. They deserve more money because they are the ones that are out there putting their bodies on the line. They are the ones that the fans
They're
are
the
coming to see,
product.
not the
Yeah.
owners.
They're the product.
Yeah.
And I do think that would be a model that would make more sense if it was adopted by the NHL rather than the NFL, because NHL contracts are so cut and dry that this is the term, this is the money, and you're going to make that money. In the NFL salary cap, there are so many different layers to it: guaranteed money, incentives, deferred money up front. There's so many weird little things that you can do to manipulate it that if we're adding percentages in the mix, it's making my brain hurt just thinking about it. Percentages are hard. It's money. Everybody knows dollars and cents.
Math in general is just it does make your head hurt. At least does mine.
Yes, 100%, especially doing math on the air. I'm out on that. All right, Adam Vingan will join us coming up next. We will preview Game 6 tonight at Bridgestone Arena. A gotta-have-it game for the Predators. Puck drop at 6 p.m. All of your pregame coverage starting right here on 102.5 and 106.3. The game starting at 5 p.m. Start getting to Bridgestone Arena now. Start bugging Willy and D-Mase at Barrel House now. Get that place rowdy. Adam Vingan will join us coming up next. We'll preview Game 6, and we'll also break down his most recent article on Sportsnet. Why is offense so hard to come by? Get into that coming up next with Adam Vink and Caroline Willy D-Mase. 1025 1063 The Game. Caroline, Willie, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game and the Game Nashville app. We are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Nick Frazier is back at our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. I'm on remote today, but Willie Donick and D-Mase are at Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena. Game 6 tonight. Win or Cancun for the Predators. Big one tonight. One big topic of conversation we've been talking about all series long is how offense and just really goals in general have been so hard to come by on both ends. Willie, one stat that you bring up that I think is telling is 12 goals total through 5 games. Shocking for two teams whose calling cards this past season has been the offense. Adam Vingan may have an explanation for us, a diagnosis, if you will. And Adam Vingan joins us now to break it down. Adam, you had a great article on Sportsnet come out today, and the headline is Why the Canucks Have Struggled to Generate Playoff Offense. What did you come up with? Your analytical breakdown of why specifically the Canucks have struggled to generate offense so far in the series.
To put the Canucks' lack of shot generation in perspective, they have 92 shots through 5 games. It's an average of 18.4 shots per game. The 92 shots are the second fewest through 5 games in any playoff series since the NHL began tracking shots on goal in 1959. The only team who had fewer than the Canucks' 92 shots through 5 games was the 1998 Washington Capitals, who had 90 shots on goal through 5 games of their conference semifinal series against the Senators, a series they won in 5 games. So they finished that series with 90 shots on goal. So one thing I was looking at when trying to figure out what the issue was, one thing that stood out to me was the Canucks have been woefully inaccurate from the slot, which is where a majority of goals are scored. They have hit the net on less than 50% of their shot attempts from the slot through 5 games, which is the lowest among playoff teams. Every other playoff team, including the ones that have been eliminated, are over 50% from the slot. It's 46.1% to be exact. The Canucks have only hit the net on 46.1% of their shot attempts from the slot. During the regular season, they shot 59.7% in terms of shots that from the slot that hit the net. So a big difference there. And I thought that Rick Tocchet said something really interesting after Game 5. He was talking about how he felt like the Canucks have been trying to hit the back door a lot on UC Saros, and they've missed that quite a bit. You know, the one chance that comes to mind, I can't recall which game it was, but Suter had a really great chance on the backdoor feed, I think from JT Miller cross ice, that just, went off of his stick and missed. It would have been a bang goal had he gotten his stick on it in the right way. And Rick Tocchet also said that he wants them to have that shot mentality to create rebounds, because the Canucks were one of the best teams in the league during the regular season in scoring goals off of rebounds. The only team actually who scored more rebound goals than the Canucks in the regular season was the Predators. So that's one thing that the Canucks have been unable to do in this series. They have 0 goals off of rebounds through 5 games. So to boil it down, it's just the Canucks, when they get to the area where the majority of goals are being scored in the league, they have missed the net way too much, and they haven't been able to create and score off of rebounds against UC Saros.
And it is funny how it wasn't very long ago that you and I were talking about, we all were talking about how the Predators' defense after the 18-game point streak had kind of seemed to take a little bit of a dip before the playoffs. Now we're talking about how the Predators' defense might be, saving their butts in this series. I'm looking at this quote that you included in your article on Sportsnet, and Rick Tocchet's talking about, they're out of position, they're shooting the puck too close into UC Saros' glove. So when you're looking at the lack of offense from the Canucks in your little pie chart, how much of a section would go to the Predators and their defensive effort, and how much of it is the Canucks are just trying to do too much?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it might be a pretty even split. I think the Predators, we did talk about this near the end of the regular season, about how the Predators' defensive play after that point streak ended had slipped. And that was the one thing that was of most concern to me, was whether or not they were going to get back to playing solid team defense, especially right in front of the net. And I feel like they've done that in this series, preventing the Canucks from getting clean looks at the net in the slot. The Predators have allowed 8.2 slot shots on net per game in this series. That's the best mark of any team in the playoffs. So they have done a really good job of preventing the Canucks from hitting the net from there. And I think it's because of, they've done a good job of shot blocking, as we know, especially in Game 2. And B, the Canucks, as Rick Tocchet was explaining in the quote after the game, I think the Canucks are trying to be a little too fancy around the net. I think if they can just get back to peppering UC Soros as best they can, create rebounds, and try to create some havoc in and around the crease. Like, think about the goal that Brock Besser scored to tie the game in Game 4. Now, I know that was a 6-on-5, but there was a lot of bodies around the net. The puck was bouncing, and he was there to put it in. They need more goals like that if they're going to win this series. And the Predators, to their credit, have done a good job of preventing them from doing so.
Now, Adam, why do you think because you bring this up in looking at it, it's like, wow, okay. But why do you think so much emphasis is being put on the defensive play of Vancouver rather than the defensive play of the Nashville Predators? Because it goes hand in hand. Listen, they don't have the shots. Why? Because the Nashville Predators are playing really good defense on the opposite end of the ice. But why hasn't there been more talk about the Nashville Predators defense rather than the Vancouver's defense?
Well, I think the fact that the Canucks are doing something that is historic in the wrong way.
Exactly.
The Predators have held the Canucks to set 92 shots on goal. As I said, second fewest through 5 games of any playoff series since the league began tracking shots on net like 60 years ago or whatever it was. I'm not good at that. I can't do that quick math. But the point is that the Predators have the thing is, the Canucks actually were not a great shot-generating team during the regular season. Mm-hmm. They were one of the worst shot-generating teams during the regular season. But they averaged 28.4 shots per game during the regular season, which means they're averaging 10 fewer shots per game, exactly 10 fewer shots per game in the playoffs than they did in the regular season. The key for the Canucks is that they were incredibly efficient. They weren't taking a lot of shots, but they were scoring on a lot of them. And then I guess you could say that's what's happening in this series too. They haven't taken a lot of shots, but they have scored enough to have a 3-2 series lead. So I think the reason why there's more emphasis on what the Predators are doing defensively is because they're holding the Canucks to historic levels of a lack of shots, for lack of a better term.
So you think that's what has contributed to the series being the way that it is, and why Vancouver, even though they're not getting as many shots on goal, but the shots they are taking, they're making do on them. And is that sometimes the hardest thing to defend? Is a team that doesn't take a lot of shots, but they're patient with their shots?
Yeah, that's a good question. That is a really good question. And I mean, look, the fewer shots on goal you can allow, the better, mm-hmm. right? Like the Canucks had how many attempts did they have in Game 2? Like 84 or something like that. But the Predators blocked 30 shots. So, and I think and the Canucks, when they haven't been getting a ton of looks from the slot in general, and they haven't been able to hit the net either. So that's the thing is, if you're Andrew Burnett and you're looking at the fact that your team gave up 84 shot attempts in Game 2, you don't like that. But the fact that you blocked 30 and held them to, I don't remember how many shots on goal they had in Game 2, but they didn't have a lot. Like, you take that as a coach, because that means you're forcing the Canucks to make those changes. You're getting in shot lanes. So that means that you're either blocking the shot, or because they're expecting you to block the shot, they're maybe having to move over a slight. They hesitate for a second, or move away from where they were going to shoot, and therefore maybe they don't have as great of a shooting lane as they would have had on the original location of the shot, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Adam Vingan is with us. Adam, I think you touched on a really important part of this whole equation, that probably has not been emphasized as much in some of the commentary I hear, and that is how tough it has been for both teams. Because you mentioned the Canucks haven't gotten to rebounds. I don't know what you would classify Besser's game-tying goal in the closing seconds. That was more of a scramble. He kind of got his own rebound in some fashion because I think he banked it off the side of the cage, but technically that's not a rebound, but maybe that's the closest one. And I was going back through Nashville's 12 goals. The only rebound I could see that was a clear one was Sissons on a rush in a 3-on-2 situation. He got a rebound and put it in game 2. So both teams are really struggling to get the rebounds. And one thing I notice about, and you mentioned how important that is to Nashville's offense. They got to a lot of rebounds in the regular season. But Tyler Myers and Soucy and Zadorov, these giants that they have in there, those guys are tough to get rebounds on.
No, that is correct. And at least according to Sport Logic, the Canucks have 0 rebound goals. So Besser's goal must not have counted as a rebound goal. And you're right, Willie. The only rebound goal the Predators have scored in this series was that Sissons goal you're referring to. So these teams were 1-2 in the regular season in rebound goals scored. So it's a huge part of their game, both teams, and they haven't been able to do that. And you're right. I think part of the issue on the Predator side is, as you said, just the size of their defensemen. Like, Zadorov is a big guy, and Myers is a big guy. I feel like Carson Soucy is like I didn't realize how big he was.
Me either.
Until I was watching him more regularly.
He's a big dude, 6'4", I think.
He's listed at 6'5", 208. And Myers is 6'8", 229, and Zadorov is 6'6", 248, according to the roster that I'm looking at. So they've got monsters among men on the back end, and that helps them clear out the crease. And I think Zadorov in particular has had a really good series on both ends. But that does play a role in it for sure. The Predators have, and look, like even Ian Cole, who's not a big guy, like stature-wise, he's as rough and tumble as they come. Mm-hmm. And he's been there. I mean, what is this? This is his 8th team he's been in the playoffs with in his career. He's won the Stanley Cup. He's as hard-nosed as it gets. So even though he's not as big as his other defensemen, he's really good at. I mean, think about the shot block he had at the end of Game 3. Was it? Blocking Yossi and then taking the puck off the side of the head from Ryan O'Reilly. Like, Cole is a shot blocking savant. So the Canucks defense has made it very difficult.
I want to add, the Jack Adams came out today, Adam, and to nobody's surprise at all, it was Brunette and Tocchet in there in the final 3. The third guy was Rick Bowness, who I did have in my top 3 as well. Those are the 3 guys that I had. Mm-hmm. But I think of a guy like Zadorov. You mentioned he scored a big goal. He scored 2 goals, so that always gets you headlines. He hasn't been a goal scorer in his career, but he's got 7 since the All-Star break, which really surprised me. And so it just kind of dawned on me that Rick Tocchet deserves a lot of credit for getting a lot out of this guy. Like, he's always been a physical beast and a monster, but I always have looked at him in the past at his various stops as a little bit more of a wild card, a little bit of an X factor that could be your best player one night, but also the reason your team lose some nights. But I think he's really put his best hockey together under Rick Tocchet since he was traded to them. What are your thoughts on him? Because historically, I haven't seen him as an elite player, but I think he's getting elite minutes out of him.
I just want to say this as it relates to the Jack Adams. I think you and your fellow broadcasters nailed it with Rick Tocchet and Andrew Brunette. If it were up to me, I think that third spot was earmarked for John Tortorella until the Flyers unraveled down the stretch. I would have loved to have seen Spencer Carberry get that third spot. I mean, what he did with that Capitals team this year, I think he absolutely deserves at least to be a finalist. I'm not criticizing you, Willie.
Yeah.
I'm just
but I think it's fair. I struggled with that too. I thought Carberry did a phenomenal job based on their numbers and what was expected of them too. They overachieved to get to the playoffs. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, the thing about Zadorov that I think that's an underrated aspect of his game is the guy can move.
Yes,
he's a big. As I mentioned, he's a big boy out there. And the defensemen of that size aren't always the most fleet-footed. but he is. And I mean, you've seen it I think you saw it on that goal in Game 5. You know, he can get up and move despite being 6'6" and 250 pounds. I mean, he is one of the biggest players. He's one of the biggest skaters in the NHL, forwards and defensemen. And he can get up and move. And I think that's an aspect of his game that is underappreciated. But you're right. Like, Zadorov is sort of a feast or famine player. I think you described it perfectly. He's the kind of guy that can make a huge play to help your team win, or he can make a boneheaded play to put your team on the penalty kill or to lose. But, you know, it's funny. He's been around. He's played for a lot of different teams, but he regularly shows up in the playoffs. Like, he played for the Avalanche in the playoffs. He was around. He went to the playoffs with Calgary once, and now he's back in it with Vancouver. Like, whatever the knock is on Nikita Zadorov, the guy does contribute to teams that make the playoffs. So that's a credit to him.
All right, last thing for you, Adam. I know shots have been hard to come by for all players in this series. One that has surprised me to this point, but I think if you look closely, the last 2 games have been his best 2 games. But Roman Josi, if you'd have told me before the series started that he would only have 9 shots on goal in the first 5 games, I would have said, wow, that is not good for the Predators at all. I look at him, though, I'm wondering if he's figuring it out a little bit on how to get a little bit more offense. But I think you have to credit Vancouver for doing a good job on him. And I think by the same token, Nashville has done a good job on Quinn Hughes, their Vezina Trophy guy. I think even though he's got more points, I think they've done a pretty good job of not letting him just take over the series. So both teams have sort of neutralized the ace defenseman for the other team.
Yeah, and that, to me, that was like the matchup within the matchup entering the series, was how those 2 defensemen were going to play. And I talked to JT Miller after Game 4 just about the pressure and the physicality that the Predators were bringing to Quinn Hughes. Remember, early in Game 4, he took that double hit from, I believe, Zucker and Sissons and was doubled over on the bench and missed his next shift. And JT Miller said to me, it's the same thing we're doing to Roman Josi or trying to do to Roman Josi. If I'm the Predators, I'm trying to take a run at Quinn Hughes every chance I get, just like we're trying to take a run at Roman Josi every chance we get. And I do think that Roman Josi has played a little bit more like the Roman Josi we know in the past couple of games. Of course, he had the great move to score the power play goal the other night. But I mean, it goes without saying that you need Roman Josi to play at a Norris Trophy level in order for this team to win the series. And I do think that Quinn Hughes, although he has 5 assists in the series, he did make that fabulous play, juking Gustav Nyquist out of his skates before the game-tying goal in Game 4 with 8 seconds left. But I feel like he has not been his best self in the series either. So, if the win, for one of these teams to emerge victorious, I think either Hughes or Josi is going to have to play a big part in that.
And even with that, Adam, I understand that he's not a finalist, but for the Predators to win this series, you also need UC Saros to be playing at a Vezina Trophy caliber level.
Yes, I absolutely. And look, that goal he gave up the other night from Zadorov, that was a bad goal. I mentioned this. The SportLogic expected value model had that shot at 1.1%, meaning that it had a 1.1% chance of going in based on its expected goal model, which is not good. But to his credit, he shook it off and he played well and he stole that game. Analytically, he stole that game, as we talked about the other day. So you're probably going to need at least 1, if not 2, more performances like that from UC Saros as the Predators are going to advance past the Canucks and face the Oilers in round 2.
It was such a low percentage shot that it's one where the coach is probably saying, no, don't do. Oh, yeah, great shot. Like that's what Hal Gill said. He says, I think my coach would bench me if I tried that shot. But give him credit. He put a good shot in there, and I think he fooled UC Saros.
From Zadorov, from the outside, from a sharp angle, not a guy who could typically hit that shot.
And thank goodness for Alexander Carrier, because if the Predators had lost that game, imagine that hanging over UC Saros' head for the rest of the offseason. That muffin of a goal that he gave up to Nikita Zadorov. Adam Vingan, Adam, really appreciate you for stopping by and breaking all of this down with us. You can find Adam's most recent article on sportsnet.ca, and you know it's a Canadian website because Adam used a C in the word offense.
Yeah, and the other day I used the letter U in the word favor. That's something
Very Canadian.
He is an international man. Adam Vingan, thanks for stopping by, Adam, and enjoy the game tonight.
All right, guys, thanks.
All right, appreciate it. Adam Vingan, he's the best. And it's a really interesting and detailed article on Sportsnet. Adam
article.
breaking down all of the numbers and all of the analytics, kind of breaking down Vancouver's offensive struggles so far in the series. So give it a read. Coming up next, I want to get into Coach Willy's keys to victory tonight for the Nashville Predators in Game 6, plus your phones as well. Like we said, it's your day. It's a Predators game day. It's Game 6 day. So we are right to you as well. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, hey, you can join Cromwell Media along with local athletes and musicians at Hermitage Golf Course on June 20th for the 615 Open. Make a difference while supporting Souls for Souls. Every $20 raised goes to a new pair of shoes for a local child experiencing homelessness. Sign up to play or sponsor at 615open.com. Caroline, Willy, D-Maze. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. Willy D and D-Maze out of Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena. Game 6 tonight. Early puck drop, 6 p.m. puck drop. Try to avoid the traffic. Get to Bridgestone Arena early. But today is your day. So before we get into Coach Willy's keys to victory, I want to get into some of your thoughts and your calls and texts. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Josh is on the line with a question on the power play. What's up, Josh?
Hey, yeah, so it's not related to the power play, but in Game 4 of the overtime loss, so Burnett decided to start the first line of that game, whereas most games at the end of the season, he was starting the fourth line, the identity line. However, when that game went to overtime, I thought it was interesting that Burnett started the fourth line in overtime, where the fourth line had to get a clear just to get the first line onto the ice. So I didn't know what your guys' thoughts were about starting the fourth line in overtime. To me, I had to put the ones out there, especially how they did in overtime in the regular season.
Well, you got to realize that overtime in the regular season is completely different than overtime in the postseason. 3-on-3, it's most of the time they started O'Reilly, Forsberg, and Yossi. And of course, 3-on-3, you get the puck. It's a very different type of hockey. 3-on-3, there's so much more space out there. Teams have really come up with strategies of trying to keep possession until you get the perfect shot. Whereas 5-on-5, you're playing along the lines of the way you played in the first 60 minutes. So it's a good question. I think it just shows the faith that Andrew Burnett has in that line, McCarron, Smith, and Sherwood. And I think he has showed that faith in that trio throughout this entire series, too. He never fears putting them out there in any 5-on-5 situation, even if he knows they're going to go up against JT Miller's line. He feels like they can handle him. And I think he felt that way in overtime, too. And it's interesting. I didn't think they had a bad shift to start the overtime. They did what they have done most of the time when they start off periods, because they start not only the beginning of the game most of the time, it's the beginning of every period throughout the game. It only as a change of pace. Now, we'll see if it changes tonight in the situation, but I think he really has trusted that line a lot. And what happened in the overtime is they finished their shift. O'Reilly's unit came on, and they were the ones that gave up the goal for whatever reason. It's not – and look, I think everybody was kind of still in that spell of what just happened. We were ahead. We had this game won. We were looking forward to the celebration and even in the series up, and how did we get here? So that's a little disclaimer on all of that, but – I think the basic answer is he is, for a long time now, since the team caught the groove right in the middle of February, it's been that group that has started, I would say, 80 to 90% of not only the game to start the game in the starting five, but most of the periods as well. I think what he's hoping to do, this is strategy-wise, you hope that they grind a little bit, make the other team defend, and then when Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Nyquist come on for the first time in a period, they're in a position to start the attack, right? They're not put on a defensive position. They're coming in, having the other team grind it down a little bit. I think that's the idea.
And that has been the identity line, the grind them down, the kind of gritty blue-collar line.
The relentless word really stems from those three, I think, as much as anybody else on the team.
Just didn't give you enough time to get your top line out there.
Well, no, they did get out there. They were on the ice when the goal scored. It was O'Reilly, Forsberg, and Nyquist.
That's right. Thank you. Okay, that's right. It was just honestly, it was so quick in overtime that it felt like in my head I'm thinking it's 5 to 10 seconds. It's over a minute in overtime, but still, sooner than you'd like to see. All right, Coach Willy, your keys to victory tonight in Game 6.
Yeah, and I'd love people to text in or call in their key to the game tonight. And I can tell you that Chris Mason's is not going to change for what we do. He says just get one. That's the overlying one is don't worry about looking ahead or behind. it's one. You have to try. You have to have that one game mentality. 615-737-1025. I will give you 2 keys. Number one is, and we've just talked about it with Adam, rebound goal. If you can find a way to get a rebound goal tonight, that would be a breakthrough that could tip the scales in your favor. I think at home they have shown that, and let's hope they can keep it going tonight. They've shown that they can take the play a little bit more to the Canucks in the games here, even though they lost both of them. If you look at, especially at even strength, and Barry Trotz told Jared this the other day, they've been able to really take the game to the Canucks in 5-on-5. They haven't turned it into goals. So how do you get that? Find a way to get to a second shot. And that is not easy against this Vancouver team with the giants that we've talked about, Myers, Zadorov, Soucy, Cole. They're big, big guys. But you've got to find a way. And then key number 2, and I said this last Friday, if Roman Josi could find a way to make a big Norris Trophy kind of play. He basically did in Game 5. It was kind of a broken play, but he busted in there and he broke down the coverage with the great give and go with Forsberg. So Forsberg, he's got 6 points, right? 6 points in 6 games you take, even though I think he's still capable of having that big game, that difference-making game. But I'm going to put Josi in there as the focus of if he could just make one of those plays where he starts, when you see him get into the offensive zone and build speed and start winding the defense around and making them maybe blow a coverage here and there, that's what opens things up. He hasn't really been able to do it. And again, credit to Vancouver for how well they've done. 9 shots on goal in 5 games is really, really low for him. Yeah. They've done a great job of containing him really in every phase of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up, he's leading the teams in goals and points, but it still hasn't been a sort of like a Yossi type of. He hasn't played a Yossi type of series.
He hasn't gotten free.
He hasn't been dominant. Yes, he has made some plays here and there, but it still hadn't been a Yossi type game. What I would like to see.
He needs to be better.
Excuse me?
He needs to be better.
Yeah, he definitely needs to be better in order to, for the Predators to ultimately win this series. And then again, I think as I said last game, that first period or that first 8 or 9 minutes of the game is going to be critical for the Nashville Predators. And that last 5 minutes of the game, because if this game goes true to form like every other game goes true to form, it's going to come down to the last 5 minutes, 6 minutes of the game. And how does the Nashville Predators protect themselves? Because it's coming. You know that rush is coming. You know they're going to do something where they're going to put a lot of heat on UC Soros. How do you then stand up? Are you going to stand up like you did last game, or are you going to let one of these sort of fluky sort of situations happen within 12 seconds or 3 minutes of a game?
Yeah, scoring in bunches.
Exactly.
Vancouver does it well. They've done it well in this series.
My key to the game might be the most obvious thing, like a no-duh kind of key, but it's just try to avoid that fatal mistake. Because we know that could be all that it takes to be the difference in this series. Like we said, Game 1, 12 seconds. That's all it took. A flub from Alexander Carrier making that fatal mistake. In Game 4, the defensive breakdown to let Vancouver back into the game. That was the fatal mistake that cost you 2 games. Avoid that. You're not going to play a perfect game, and neither is Vancouver. You're like in Game 5. UC Soros let that goal in. Kiefer Sherwood hit the post. Not a perfect game, but they didn't commit that fatal mistake. You got to avoid that one tonight as well.
Good stuff.
One texter texts in, says, my key to the game, reward UC. Ride the momentum of a great save and put it in the back of the net.
It would be nice to get a little bit of cushion. It's both goalies are probably sitting there going, golly, the next save that I have to make is like based on the number of shots. I think a lot of goalies would choose, and Chris Mason has said this before, it's almost easier to play if you're facing 35 or 40 shots because you're in a
into
routine.
The game.
You're like, okay, you're used to making shots.
Constantly involved.
Both of these goalies have probably gone through 5 to 10 minute stretches at a time where they're not getting anything towards them, right? Nothing's getting through. Like I haven't had to make a save in 10 minutes. What's the next shot going to be? I think that can make it really tricky to play goal. I've never played goalie, so I couldn't tell you, but I'm just going by what Mace says, and I think a lot of other goalies would agree. So it's been a very unique series to play goal in this.
Joel Texan says, Captain Obvious Key, need more production and scoring from the power play.
The power play could mean everything tonight. No doubt about
it. It's huge.
It could be huge. And, I also wonder how the game will be officiated. How many power plays will each team get tonight? Will it be one where each team gets 4 or 5, or will it be like some games we've seen where, that game 4, for example, there was basically one power play for each team. The other one overlapped, and so each team was 0 for 2. But the second power play was like 4 seconds for each team because of the overlap in the penalties. So that's something to look for. And I'm wondering, too, whether they play Barry or not, which is a big part of the Predators' power play, is have they found some adjustments, even if Barry's not in there, to be able to get set up and get better looks. I think both teams are going back because I don't think Vancouver liked their power play in the last game. They had 2 opportunities with the game scoreless. They had all the momentum going on at almost back-to-back, and they didn't get anything at all.
Well, it's not like Vancouver's power play has been, super productive in finding the net consistently, but all it took was those 2 goals in Game 3, and that was the difference. Adam in Portland's on the line with the Preds thought about the game tonight. Go ahead, Adam.
I feel so unhinged with this series. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, it's an emotional thing. I don't remember being this way previously with the Preds. Like, I think it's because I didn't really expect any, especially after that Dallas shellacking. I wasn't expecting anything. And then they go on the big run, and then it's like, okay, we're getting in. Now they're good. And then there's so many different emotions I've had in the series where it's like, okay, we probably should have won Game 1 since we didn't. We're in trouble. Then we win Game 2, and then what happened on Sunday night, and then we come back. It's so much. And I'm not prepared to lose tonight, so I really hope. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do if we lose. Like, I'll just be sad for the whole weekend. Like, I'm not prepared to lose that game.
Sad.
I really hope. If we can get to Game 7, then whatever. But, like, I'm not prepared to lose this game tonight.
If you can get to Game 7, then whenever, you're not going to be even more sad if the Preds lose Game 7?
Yeah, but the best thing in all of sport, and I love football more than anything, but the best event in sports is Game 7 in the NHL playoffs, in an NHL playoff series. So if we can just get to that,
that's true.
I know the excitement will be something, and it's like whatever at that point, but I just want to get to Game 7.
The emotional ringer that you go through is really something.
Yeah, Adam, don't worry. You're not the only person that feels that way. The Predators themselves feel exactly like we want a Game 7 as well. They want a Game 7 just as bad as Adam, you want it, and we want it. So, but I understand your nervousness. I get it.
All right, let's take it to the bank coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Here comes the money.
And you can take that to the bank.
Here comes the money. Money, 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 money.
It's now time to take it to the bank with F&M Bank. And at F&M Bank, their mission is to make lives better by making banking easier. Less worry, more living, F&M Bank. Visit one of their 20 locations throughout Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky or online at myfmbank.com. Before we take you to the bank this week, quickly, Nick, so a standings check after last week.
Oh, boy. Yeah, D-Mase is at the bottom with 15.
D-Mase.
I am next at 26 in third place. And then at the top here, Caroline still leads the pack with 40, and Willy in second place with 37. So that's your standings update. And with that, Caroline, you can start us off.
I'm going to say it is awfully lonely at the top up here. I've been up here for quite some time, and I would really love a little bit of company, maybe a little bit of competition.
Be careful what you ask for.
I know.
You can thank your Cardinals. You can thank your Cardinals for that, because those guys and Mississippi State ruined my weekend by beating my teams 2 out of 3 and ruined my ticket to the bank.
That is a full Nick Frazier that just did you in last week between the Cardinals and Mississippi State.
It was a full-on Nick Frazier double team.
I felt happy when Willy said
Fraziered.
Mississippi State to lose out of 2 out of 3 and Mets to win the series. Like, oh, this is a good weekend for me.
It's on.
I felt it.
All right. Speaking of the Cardinals, I'm in St. Louis this weekend. Shout out to my cousin who's getting married this weekend. Congratulations, Emily. So since I am in St. Louis, I'm going to take the Cardinals to beat the White Sox tonight, because although the Cardinals are bad, the White Sox are worse. So give me the Cardinals to win tonight. Give me Texas A&M LSU baseball this weekend. Give me the Aggies to win that series, #1 team in the country. And I am going to say Kiefer Sherwood finds the net tonight in Game 6.
Oh, that is music to my ears, Caroline. I would love to hear that. I would love to see that. Okay, I'm going to go with a great series between 2 of the best teams in the National League, maybe 2 of the best teams, probably 2 of the best teams in baseball. The Braves are in Los Angeles this weekend. I'm going to take the Braves to win 2 out of 3. They've got some hitters that are due to bust out, and I'm going to call for the Braves to win the series, and Ronald Acuna will hit a home run. Please, I'm begging. He's on my fantasy team. He won the league for me last year. He's got 1 homer. Come on, Ronald. Wake up. What's going on? And then I like the Magic. Two teams I really like. The Cavs with Darius Garland, Nashville ties, and Orlando, my hometown, the Magic. Pretty good series going on. Game 6 is tonight in Orlando. Orlando's got a really good home court advantage. I watched their game in the Game 3. They've won 2 games easily in Orlando. And they're only 3.5-point favorites. So I'm taking Orlando minus the 3.5 tonight in Game 6.
All right, I'm gonna start it
quickly.
I'm gonna start it this way. Toronto, the Maple Leafs will end the series Sunday. They will beat Boston, and Bruin fans are gonna be sick
to Toronto's ears,
because it's gonna be the second year in a row where they had a 3-1 lead and they end up dumping it. I got Tommy Novak to get me a goal or a point tonight. Okay, I'm asking Novak. I know you hear me. And UC Soros will not give up no more than 1 goal, and that's pushing it. But he will give up no more than 1 goal. And what else I got here?
All right, we got to be quick here, D-Mase.
Man. Did I go basketball? I went basketball already? No, I didn't go basketball. Give me the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Oh, you like the Cleveland
Cavs,
go down and
yeah.
take it.
I'm taking the Cavs, yeah.
Okay.
I will
Cavs
take the
taking Game
Preds
6?
to win the series. I'm taking the Preds to make the absolute comeback and win tonight and Sunday, and we will see some more hockey next week.
I love it. I love it. That is going to do it for us today. Enjoy the game tonight if you're heading out to Bridgestone Arena. Puck drop at 6 o'clock. We'll be back with a full Game 6 reaction on Monday at 11 a.m.
Be love on your people. Happy weekend, and let's go Predators. Peace.